right, we are starting the this week's Midweek Howl, the non-paranormal part of the From the Shadows podcast. Howler, it's been a rough week since last we talked. My annual cold, which seems to now hit me like a freight train every year, and knocks me off my feet for about a week. I'm sort of getting over. People probably tell my voice is a little bit, I don't know, even less Barry White-ish than usual. I have no idea, but it's struggling. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's a rough week. I actually called in sick one day last week, if you can believe it.
I believe it. You tell me I believe it.
Well, it was rough. I hate to do that. I try to set a good example for the young kids by not using up their sick leave. I mean, I don't do a very good job of delivering my mail, but at least I'm there every day doing a terrible job, So I think that's something to shoot for. But
they're showing up to 50%, right?
Exactly. Well, at the post office, it's like 95%. It's like 95% because some places have a lot of difficulty getting people just to show up. So in my sick mode last week, Christy and I started watching a movie that I came across called The Hill.
Yep.
And
which I watched it. Yeah, I watched it last week. I watched it the day before I sent you the other movie.
Oh, jeez. So for everybody who doesn't know, I think The Hill's playing on Netflix right now, and so is the other movie that we're going to talk about. But The Hill is I'd never heard this guy's story. Guy from Texas who basically was born behind the eight ball, so to speak. His legs were in terrible shape. His spine was probably degenerative as soon as he came out of his mom. You know what I'm saying? It was in bad shape. So he had an interesting story. He wanted to play Major League Baseball, and his dad was the preacher in town. Did not want him to play baseball because he didn't want to have him break his spirit. And lo and behold, Ricky Hill showed him all, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
I looked up his stats, his actual stats for 4 years in the minors that he did play. I mean, he was a 300 hitter, which is really impressive when you consider the guy could barely run at some point in time, and his spine was basically non-existent.
Makes you wonder there should be a heck of a lot more pro ball players out there. These kids that just get off their ass and try a little bit more.
There you go.
Right? I mean, you're in the Crawford County Legends show. How many legends that could have been a bigger legend?
The show would go on forever.
It could have been Ohio Legends instead of just Crawford County Legends.
That's right. The show would be never ending if the people would have lived up to their ability, as you say, got off their rear ends. Well, so what was ironic then is you send me this movie called I Can Only Imagine, which is another inspirational movie. And you go, and you're like, this made me think of you. And so I'm watching the trailer. And of course, I see immediately that the dad is Dennis Quaid.
Hey, which, he plays a great mean ass alcoholic daddy, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
If I needed somebody to play me in a movie, I think that's the guy I'd get.
Dennis Quaid.
He's first of all, he's way too old to be playing those young guys' dads, but whatever. You know?
Exactly. But there was parts of that where I was always like to grow up, man.
That's exactly what made me think about it. I mean, I kept telling my son kept asking my youngest one. He's like, "Is that what it was like in the '90s?" And I said, "Like, yes, '80s, '90s. That's exactly how it was to be raised."
'90s, '70s, '80s.
I'm just saying that when he broke the plate on that kid's head with those eggs on it.
Oh my God!
I just busted out laughing. That was my favorite part of the damn thing, and I said, "Yes, when we were kids, you'd get the shit smacked out of you. You just would, right?
Oh, yeah. Would. I remember people telling me how their parents used their belt on them, and I'm like, belt? I go, I was glad to get the belt because it was a lot easier for my dad just to raise the back of his hand and hit me upside the head. I go, good grief. And those were just love taps. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't even the mean stuff. But I had a confrontation with my old man similar to that movie right before. Now, the plate didn't end up getting smashed on the back of my head, but it was one of those deals where I was a senior in high school and I finally had to step to my dad and say, listen, enough is enough. And he looked and you could tell he was thinking, you've gotten pretty big, son. I could tell that was going on in his mind, and just made him for a second question himself. Now, what I didn't have the heart to tell him at the time was just because I was twice as big as him back then, I still think he would have broke me in half in 3 ways on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? I mean, those old dudes.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
those guys from that generation, they just fought mean. They were just mean, and
but see, the problem is though he wouldn't expect it from you. I had a dude I went to school with that actually I talked to more this last year than I have in 20 years since we got out of school. For crazy because he's an elected official, but that's a whole nother story.
He's an elected, okay.
Yeah, he's an elected official, and his old man was a notorious drunk. Not only kid beater but wife beater. Big Catholic family, and where I grew up, they just prayed for him. You know what I mean? That's just everybody just knew. Well, that was just him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And my buddy was in my class, started really lifting heavy in high school and fought a lot. Okay. And his whole sole purpose of getting that big was to kick his old man's ass and to stop his old man from, because he had twin brothers, and his old man to get drunk and smack them around a little bit, And it got to a point where, by the time he was in his early 20s, 19, 20, 21, his old man, did what he always did. And this guy messed that old man up. You know what I mean? Now, so part of me, I think about that is that old man probably got away with a lot of stuff on a reputation. Does that make sense? Hadn't been in a real fight in 15 or 20 years.
Smacking your kid.
There's a difference between being a badass and everybody in town thinking you're a badass. There's a big difference, you know what I mean? And like you say, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Well, in the land where nobody fights, it doesn't take much to be a badass, right?
There you go.
So, and I think part of it was this kid was just young and quick, where the old man was, slow and drunk. And the other part is, I don't think the old man thought it was going to happen to him. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So there was a little, he had the opportunity to strike, and he did. And as far as I know, after that was last time his old man did anything.
Yeah, I had a buddy, one of my buddies in school, who's a year ahead of me. Everybody joked that our dads must have been separated at birth, because his old man was nuts. He was from the Vietnam era, was over in Vietnam, was a tunnel rat, it wasn't called the Navy SEALs then, but he was in the first group of what would become
right, like Jesse Ventura, the Buds, or under divers or whatever. Uh-huh.
They would become Navy SEAls. Mm-hmm. Okay, and his dad was just off the rocker nuts. And when I was a junior, and my buddy was a senior, him and his old man finally had enough of him. And he ended up breaking his old man's arm out in the front yard.
That'll do it. Yeah, you just made me think of a notorious cop that I worked with that was in his, I guess when I started, I went to the police academy in 92. So this guy had been around since the 70s. So let's just say he was 20 years older than me. So when I was in my early 20s, he was in his early 40s. And the guy that kind of took me under my wing used to tell me 101 cop stories from the 70s. These guys all started in the 70s when I don't know how to say this, when they really beat the shit out of people if they needed it. Or you know what I mean? It really happened, right?
Yeah.
So
there's a different kind of policing.
Yes, he was telling me how this guy, little short, stout kind of guy, he would purposely start shit because he knew he had 5 other cops coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just so they could beat the shit out of people. You know what I mean? And there was a guy that owned the gym, and I won't say his name because they're both still alive. Well, one's dead. The 3 people I'm about to tell in the story, 2 of them are around, but one of them's so fucked up he can't do nothing. That's the story I was about to tell. And there was a gym, a notorious gym where I'm from, back before there was World Fitness. You remember there used to not be real gyms everywhere, right? There just wasn't gyms, like fitness places, 24-hour fitness.
No, it was a hole in the wall where you'd go and there's.
Yeah, so this guy had a hole in the wall gym that was actually right by the church I went to, and it was really a boxing gym, like an old fashioned, boxing gym, like you'd see in town of about 25,000 at that time when I was growing up. And I was 50, but he got into karate. The guy that owned the gym was a police officer. Got into karate. I want to say karate, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know my karate from my
kickboxing.
You know what I mean? All that
jiu-jitsu,
yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, or
so this buddy of mine, Beasley, used to tell me stories. He said the problem is, he said we were all on the same team, and he said BJ, that's the dude that runs the gym. I'll just say his name, and I won't say his last name. I ended up working with his son as a cop, but anyway, he said that this guy would start this shit, and you'd be trying to. Maybe you got him cuffed or maybe you didn't, and you were just going to try to get him out to the car, get him away from the bar or whatever. And he would roll up and want to do one of those. And this is before Roadhouse, but one of them Roadhouse Kicks, right? And he said most of the time the cops would let go of the suspect because they were afraid to fucker kick them. You know what I mean? Because he would just start all this. He would start all this kung fu shit.
Like they thought he was such a bad aim.
Do what?
They thought he was a bad aim, and he
because he said the guy, the suspect would usually flinch, and then if you held on to him, then he would pull you into the.
Oh, wait a second. So they had a hold of the suspect.
Yeah, like they would have a hold of the suspect, and
well, then why is the guy kicking him?
Because that was the 70s, dude. So, but the story I was about to.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, there's a reason why people hate the police. I don't want to tell you it's not all. It's all unfounded, but there's some reasons. There's some reasons. There's people that have raised their kids.
I would say that is crossing.
Hold on a second. Now, I don't think those cops, those kind of cops, are few and far between, right? Because if we had those cops, we wouldn't have all those people getting shot. I think that a lot. When I see these videos in town, of the one that brings my head all the time is the St. Paul. You remember the St. Paul police officer a few years ago went to tase a guy, like a robbery suspect. This was right after George Floyd. Nobody wanted to touch anybody. And this was a known gang member. He had felony warrants. I think he had a concealed gun in the car. One thing led to another, and she went to tase him, and she accidentally shot him. And she's in prison now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and the guy fucked around and debated with the cops. But 25 years ago, they would have, one of those guys from a real gym like that, they would have landed a bunch of 5 upside your head a couple of times, and you would have got out of the car. Does that make sense? There wouldn't be none of this, these Freudian debates that go on like a freaking debate class. They done told you once to get out of the car, and you didn't. It's on. Okay, so in some ways, I'm not saying it's all bad, but it's just
I hear what you're saying.
I run in this old cop. Hold on, so I moved away and I was back in town. I run this old cop one day and he was crippled. So I called a friend of mine and I talked to him at Lowe's for a long time, and it was one of those deals. I did not feel comfortable asking what happened to you, dude. You know what I mean? It's one thing when a guy just gets fat and he's like, fuck, what'd you do? Eat your spouse or something? But this guy was really messed up. And I asked a friend of mine, would know. I said, what happened? He said, well, and this guy was a big Catholic school wrestler. The cop was a big Catholic school wrestler and raised his kids as big, state wrestlers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they said, no, they had kind of a half-assed domestic at his house. And the old man the old man who was a cop came up there and his oldest boy grabbed him and didn't spike him down, but threw him up against a tree in the yard and partially paralyzed him.
Holy moly.
Uh-huh. Never worked as a cop again, never walked. He was all hunched over and I couldn't figure out what happened.
Now, did he have it coming?
I guess, well, there's a lot of people said, hell yes, he had it coming because he'd been beating people's ass for 25 years, whether it be suspects or whoever, But
I mean, had he been doing it to his kids?
I don't know what he was doing. All I know is, I guess he was drinking heavily and got mouthy. And I think his kid went to leave and he went out to the yard and said, "You're not going anywhere." And put hands on him and
jeez.
And that's what you get. That's why I don't teach my kids how to fight or wrestle or nothing. That's why that's why these dudes. I'm a gun guy, right? And used to be, it's a thing now to take these dudes take their girlfriends out shooting or take their wives out shooting. Why would you do that? So then when she gets freaking mad at you and throwing some rounds down range, if she hits your ass, it's your own fault for teaching her how to shoot. Give me a freaking break. I got a buddy of mine who's like, yeah.
I think that should probably be on a t-shirt, right?
Yes. It's your own fault. It's like, well, hey, my wife's going to work extra hours, so I'm going to get her a concealed carry permit and get her a $380 for her purse. Come on, dude. I just part of me wanted to say, if the attacker talks to her more than 30 seconds, he'll be running the fuck away.
Jeez.
But they do, and then I think you go more power to you. And then when the breakup comes or bad stuff happens, emotions kick in, lead will fly.
Well, what took us down this road is that I'm halfway through the I Can Only Imagine movie, but it's pretty good. And you're right, Dennis Quaid plays a very great, disgruntled, angry, mad at life kind of person who wants to keep everybody else down.
Yes.
He does a great job of that.
Yes, I told my wife, she said, man, he's a good actor. I said, I think he just thinks of Meg Griffin all the time when he gets mad like that, probably.
Oh, gosh. Well, I guarantee he didn't take her to the shooting range, right?
I don't, hey, listen to his Marin interview. Have you heard of his interview on Marin?
I've not heard his interview on Marin.
First of all, he sounds drunk. He's just got an old gravelly voice, that just comes from smoking and drinking and partying. And
I have not heard him on Marin.
Of course, Marin asked if he was sober. He goes, well, I don't do cocaine anymore. Does that count? Hey, the best part is he said something about flying. He got to talking about making he followed his brother,
Randy,
came out and worked at the Comedy Store. His brother come out as a comedian. And I think they're from Houston. Do what?
I said, oh boy.
And and Randy got a gig and Randy got a movie. Randy, some stuff for happening. He called back to Texas. Said, dude, you got to come out here. It's not hard at all. It's Hollywood. You just, show up and you put in the movies. I don't know. I'm ad-libbing. So, and he said it, he showed up and I think they were in the Long Riders, but he got to talking about the movie that really made him was All the Right Stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Do you see he played Gordon Cooper on All the Right Stuff? You know what I'm talking about, the space movie.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's from like 1980, right?
Yes. And he said there was a big brouhaha with that movie. The guy that wrote the book, somehow NASA and Hollywood got together. I'm trying to look it up right now while I'm talking. I apologize.
By the way, I'm looking it up. So he is and I don't know what this means. I never understood this, but he is a first cousin twice removed. Wouldn't that be a third cousin?
Yes, or you do third if you do math. But some places they can't do long form math, so they just add them on like that.
1, 2, 3. I mean, you can't do that. Gene Autry.
So their grandparents were first cousins.
Yeah. There
or
you go.
Great grandparents were brother and sister.
Great boy. I don't. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, because they'd be the first cousins, second cousins,
something like that. He's also. I mean, he's good friends with Tanya. I know Tanya.
He's a good looking man. I mean, he's still a good looking man.
Well, they were apparently. I think they were in a movie. It was like her first real movie. She told me.
So he said, "Oh yeah, that's so."
Oh gosh, keep it on the rails.
This is what he said. He said whoever told him said, I guess the actual astronauts didn't really take part in the making of the movie. The NASA people did. Does that make sense? So there's friction between all these retired astronauts and NASA wanting to tell their story. You know, like NASA and Hollywood writer telling their story. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, but doesn't NASA essentially own the rights to the story?
Yeah, but my point was who would tell the story better? Would you want Robert Kraft telling Tom Brady's story, or you want to hear it from Tom Brady?
Well, it all depends on what you want out there,
and that was the whole point. And he said there was friction with some of these pilots, just like, you know, what comes first, the letter carrier or the post office, right? So they were making a movie about these letter carriers, and the big post office wanted to run the whole thing, and there was friction going back with because
they wouldn't let us talk.
Yes, that's what's going on. So they basically told these actors they couldn't reach out to any of these people they were playing.
Really?
Yes. Okay. Which, you know what's funny is I've heard that from two different actors. The other one I heard was remember when they made the movie about Dick Cheney?
Oh God.
Whoever played Dick Cheney was on there, and they said, whatever you do, and this is no shit, do not try to reach out to him, because I guess some of these actors, when they get given somebody's role, they reach out to them and kind of talk to them a little bit and kind of, you know what I mean? And
yeah, you want to get a feel for who you're playing.
Whatever you do not talk to freaking Dick Cheney. And Marion goes, did you? And he goes, hell no. He said, I really wanted to. And he said, but you know, that's one you just don't, because he said, fuck, he did. At that time, I think he was still the vice president. You know, he got like Secret Service and shit people. And he said, no, I don't think that would have been any fun. But back to Quaid. So somehow, and I don't remember, I'll have to go back and listen to the thing. Somehow somebody told Quaid that all these old astronauts, what happened is he said something about a plane, and Marin says, you fly? And he goes, oh yeah, I fly this and I fly that and whatever. And he goes, how'd you get into that? And he goes, with the right stuff. And he said, you had to learn to fly to make that? And he goes, no, and he talks about how he learned how to fly from Gordo Cooper and some other astronaut, because he got chosen for this movie, and he ended up basically going over to the guy's house and saying, hey, they told me not to talk to you guys, but I'm playing in this movie and I really don't know what the hell I'm doing. My brother said, of course, you know how crazy his brother is. My brother said, just drive on over here and ask you. And they knew him from the Long Run, or one of those first movies. You know what I mean?
Oh, one of his first?
Yes. Well, you know, like Gordo Cooper didn't run him off. You know, they knew they were getting played. Somebody was playing him in the movie. They knew it was him. Yeah, because the Long Riders is before that. So he plays it. The Long Riders is a Jesse James movie, and he plays an outlaw named Ed Miller. And his brother plays.
Is that the movie that Tanya's in with him?
It could be, because see, there's like three sets of brothers: James and Stacy Keach, David and Keith Carradine, Dennis and Randy Quaid, Christopher and Nicholas Guest.
Christopher and Nicholas Guest.
Yes, because they're playing like Jesse and Frank James and Cole and you know, they're playing all these outlaws who were brothers. So I guess Stacy Keach was one of the guys that wrote it. I'm reading right here, Stacy and James Keach. And for whatever reason, you know, they had all these young aspiring pairs of brothers out in Hollywood. You know what I mean? And because see, I'm reading right here, the Carradines on the cast. David Carradine is Cole Younger, Keith Carradine is Jim Younger, Robert Carradine is Bob Younger. So they had three Carradines in it. But back to the movie. He goes up he goes up, knocks on the guy's door. Dude says, yeah, I'm glad you're paying me. Come on in. You got to meet some of the guys. Starts taking him out the airport and starts taking him. basically teaches him how to fly, man. Starts getting lessons. He learned how to fly from the freaking astronaut, Gordon Cooper. I mean, how cool is that?
Do you know what's cooler? Is that he is an uncredited extra in one of the greatest movies of the early 80s, Stripes.
Oh, I did not know that.
He's
uncredited. I'm seeing it right here. Yeah.
It's extra
at the graduation. There you go.
But did you, so now that since this is apparently this is at the movies episode with Shane and the Howler, did you see they're remaking Roadhouse?
I've seen that, but it's getting panned. You know, how do you remake Roadhouse? That's what, you know what that tells me? That's a call for help from Hollywood. Every time they have to recycle one of these things.
I know.
You know what I mean? That's a call for help. Why can't you be out there writing movies? Because I've
got plenty of them.
Not those cheap ass slasher films. I mean, a good, real good movie, big box office splash.
I got a couple of those too. We just need producer money. We need some seed money for somebody to get behind us, so that when we go to the other movie places, they know we're serious. You know, because nobody likes to take a chance on the unknown guys. You know, but how do you pick Jake Gyllenhaal to replace Patrick Swayze?
I don't even know. You know what? I was joking last night. I mean, the freaking Lions have got the guy that plays Ken on Barbie for the quarterback. So I don't know.
Jared Goff.
Does he look like what's his name sometimes?
Oh God. Oh geez.
Played like Ken Barbie too, didn't he?
He didn't play bad. I thought he was all right. I thought he did.
I thought the Lions were going. What was that all about?
You know, you can't. They should have kicked the field goal there in their first possession in the second half. To keep it at 3 scores. There's a time to gamble, and there's a time to, play.
Know when to hold them, when to fold them.
That's right. Kenny Rogers would have been a little disappointed me.
You know, if I could go back, if you could talk to dead people, who would you talk to?
Oh boy, if I could talk to dead people,
like Kenny Rogers is one of the dead dudes I would like to talk to.
Really?
Yes.
I think I'd like to talk to. Golly, there's a lot of people I'd like to talk to. I'd like to talk to. Man, you put me on the spot with this question. I'd like to talk to Kennedy.
Hey, you know what I was just watching? I was just watching a movie called LBJ with.
Oh yeah.
Did you see it? I've never seen that. I don't know. You know what I'm telling you? I'm telling you what, I think LBJ is the coolest freaking president. I think he did kill Kennedy.
Well, I don't think he did it, but I think he knew who did it. And I think he knew that there was no point sticking around. Let's get out. Because didn't he only run or get to one term? He finished out JFK's, and did he run?
Yeah, but you know what I was reading tonight, what they were blaming all that on?
What's that? Him owning half the stock in Bell Helicopter?
Nope. He passed the Civil Rights Bill and crossed all them Democrats.
And crossed all the Democrats?
Yeah, because the Democrats were against the Civil Rights Bill, you know. The Democrats being the party of slavery and the party of the South and the Confederates and all that. When he passed the Civil Rights Bill, they got, as part of Kennedy's legacy. You know, it's weird. When you watch Woody Harrelson play him on the thing, he almost sounds like Johnny Manziel, right? He was a sympathetic figure. So
LBJ sounds
yes, like he comes across as kind of sympathetic. But anyhow,
I always heard that LBJ was the political version of Milton Berle.
I don't know about that. I mean, I heard he was a ruthless son of a bitch.
Yeah, but I mean, the rumors about Milton Berle, right?
No,
that
the big old singer Milton Berle, the guy from the big country,
the comedian Milton Berle, Uncle Mildy.
Yeah, but I thought he played. Didn't he play? Didn't he get a?
So the rumor that went around Hollywood is that Milton Berle was
weird.
Was that he was exceptionally endowed. Yes,
I've heard that about LBJ too.
And the LBJ was his political, the same in the political.
Right. I was thinking Burl Ives from
Oh God, Milton Berle fries.
There's only so many Burls in my mind here because Burl Ives was in one of my favorite movies, A Big Country.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because he was.
You thought Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's the talking snowman.
He won. I think he won an Oscar in The Big Country. Let me see what he says here.
Or for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
No, he got it. God, man,
do you think anybody is still listening by this?
No, I don't care. I mean, you think what's it matter in our minds?
In our minds,
hey, if we have force, our force multipliers should be the schizophrenic. So that would be like talking to 2 or 3 people at once. So for every listener, you would divide it times it by 3.
So we kind of hope for a schizophrenic audience.
Yeah. Well, I'm here near Fulton, Missouri, where the Fulton State Hospital is. Yeah, maybe we should get this piped in for free. So,
how do you think Apple iTunes is going to keep track of that metric?
I don't tell me you believe in these metrics. They're probably already throttling you for some of the stuff I say.
Well, if they're not, they're certainly going to throttle us for saying we need to build up our listenership. We should start targeting the schizophrenics.
Hey, maybe they'll be schizophrenic. Yeah. Hey, he got a Burl Ives Academy Award won. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Burl Ives
won the Academy Award in The Big Country. You know who he supported?
Oh, in Big Country, isn't that John Wayne or somebody?
No. Oh, no. It's Gregory Peck. Gene Simmons, not the guitarist. Charlton Heston. Carol Baker.
Wow.
You know who else is in it? Hold on. There's what's his name's in it? Chuck Connors.
Who played for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Chuck Connors was Burl Ives' boy, wayward son. And in Charlton Heston, there's a fight scene between Charlton Heston and Gregory Peck, and and Heston takes his shirt off, and he was kind of a big dude.
Well, yeah, when he have his shirt off in Planet of the Apes and stuff.
Oh, I don't know, but even Gregory, those were real dudes. They weren't like these like mini movie stars they have nowadays. They were
like Jake Gyllenhaal in the new Roadhouse.
How big is he?
I don't know, but I mean, of course, Patrick Swayze was a little tiny guy anyway. Isn't that the famous line? I thought you'd be bigger than the original Roadhouse.
Oh my God! You don't want me to tell you this Jake Gyllenhaal's measurement and shoe size and vital statistics. I want to tell you something right now. When they say, get back down to it, 6 foot, 170 pounds, but then he's got his chest size and his 44 and his bicep size. And dude, if you're 6 foot and you only weigh 170 pounds, just drop the rest of that shit off your bio. And he's got size 10. If you got a shoe size 10, that's like a freaking middle schooler.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out. Go!